What's the answer to the question? Who are we? Why are we here? What happens when we die? Where do we go? Are ghosts real? Are there other worlds, physical, spiritual? These are just some of the questions we'll try to answer. And all we ask is you keep an open mind.
Hello and welcome. I'm Marnie Barron and I am here with Amber Rose Hammond, author of 2 books. Amber, tell us the title of your books. Tell her.
Okay, I have 2 books, Ghosts and Legends of Michigan's West Coast, that was put out in 2009, and my newest is Wicked Ottawa County, that came out last year.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the Wicked Ottawa County book.
Okay, this book was, anybody that knows me knows I always delve into ghosts and legends and anything like on that subject, and as I was researching stories for that book, I started seeing all this stuff about, this guy murdered, this guy suicided, this guy, just really off-the-wall stories. And I wanted to kind of learn a little more about that, and my publisher had a series called Wicked. And I thought, I think we could do something with that. And so at first I wanted to do just Wicked Grand Haven, where I'm from. And then I decided, they're like, well, we need a bigger market because we got to sell books. So they're like, how about the county? And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do that. And I was amazed at what I found, because I only went from 1850s to like 1930s. I like to stay kind of within that older frame, because sometimes if you get in the newer stuff, you actually can offend people still because their families are still alive around here. So when you write about local history, that's kind of a different spin. You got to take into account that some of these people are actually still alive and remember this event. And
You have to be a little sensitive
yeah, you do. And I feel like as a writer, I like to be a little sensitive. I don't want to just throw it out there and, who cares? I just want to be on the New York Times bestseller. That's not what really local history is about, so.
Well, and then to really validate it, because everybody has embellishes stories,
Yeah.
and the stories get stretched,
Yep.
but the families
Yep.
have their own take on it,
Yeah.
their own spin, so you want to be sensitive to
Yep.
that. So what got you really started, though, or your interest anyway, in the strange and unusual?
Since just being born, when I was
Was it strange and
Yeah,
unusual?
yeah, and when I was little, I just have always naturally been attracted to something that was weird. Like, I don't know, on a mundane level, horror movies, or, fantasy cartoons, like Dungeons and Dragons, or, just, that was always where my interest went. And as I got older, it just kept going and getting bigger and bigger. And then one day I was sitting it was 2000, and I was like, Michigan is the most boring state ever. Nothing happens here, nothing goes on, there's no cool ghost stories. And I thought, well, let's ask the oracle that is Google. And, this was almost like, this is 2000, so your mind wasn't trained to just go, internet, I'm gonna go look up things on the internet, So I was babysitting our computer lab at the library I work at, and ended up typing in Michigan haunted places, and was like, I was wrong. And then I ended up finding ghost hunting groups. And that's how I ended up meeting some of these people that are involved in this kind of community. And then it just went from there. And
Which is exactly how you and I met.
yeah,
Ghost
yeah, through ghost hunting. So my beliefs and theories, and just how I look at that whole thing from 10 years ago to now has really changed, but it's still been a really cool journey from 2000 to now 2012, getting from starting just, you're like, just got this little interest, and now you're doing lectures and writing books and doing websites and stuff. It's kind of, interesting to look at that, like, decade of time. Oh, decade. Oh.
That's not that long. It's
Yeah,
not
no,
that
not
long.
that
So what are, have you ever been surprised by anything in particular that you found? What was probably the most surprising?
Like, in what?
In
Like
your
it-
strange and unusual.
Just in
If you have,
stories
like,
or-
a particular story or,
I think how, and if I'm looking for stories, I think what surprised me the most wasn't like any of the ghost stuff I found. Sometimes the history behind a particular haunting can be interesting and give some clues as to why there's something maybe still there if you believe that, but I think it was the murders and stuff that I was really shocked about, because we tend to think, oh, that was back then, everybody was quaint and they just all got along. And when you started digging, you were like, oh my God, they were just as brutal and creepy as people are now. It's just there was less of them. And now there's more of us. And, you know, our media is bigger and we can, you know, find something out in 1 minute. And we all know that so-and-so died in 2 seconds because of Yahoo News. But I think that was what was creepy. And the way, because you have early forensics, the way people would do away with someone, you know, tie them in that bag and throw them in that river and, you know,
well, and then they got away with it.
yeah, they would sometimes get away with it. And when just reading the papers, you're like, what? That's so just common sense, you know, because we've watched CSI and all these other shows and things. And so it's more common knowledge to us, like how to catch a criminal. But back then, you don't have fingerprinting, you don't have DNA, nothing.
No way to prove it.
You have things like in the story I was talking about in my presentation tonight, you have a shirt tag with an initial in it, you know, and that's what you have to go from. So it's kind of cool. I think those were what was actually surprising. Those stories, yeah, those are what, yeah.
Well, those are the ones that you can research. You can't really research the ghost
No,
stories as
you're
well
right.
and then find, because
That's,
they're stories.
Yeah, that's more about someone's experience and their personal, what would you say? It's a personal experience.
Personal experience with a personal
Yeah.
perspective on
Yeah.
it in a belief system
Yeah.
that
Yep. So it's, you know, with the true crime, you can get the hard facts, sort of. You know, with, like you said, the ghost hunting or the ghost stories and legends, it's all circumstantial. You know, you can't really figure out why people think Dogman's there. All you can do is just allude to, well, you know, these Native American stories suggest this, and this guy was out in the woods in the 70s and saw this, and that's really all we got to work with. You know, so you kind of have to build stories like that. But so I think that's why I enjoyed writing The Wicked Ottawa County, because it was like more concrete. You know, it was there. It wasn't just the elusive ghost and the elusive Bigfoot and whatever else you're trying to find.
what must be a lot of fun researching this.
Yeah, I'm absolutely obsessed with that.
What are your favorite resources that
Old.
you use now?
Old newspapers and any genealogy resources such as Ancestry.com, Family Search. You can really get names and stuff and kind of go, okay, well, here's this name from the paper. Let's see if this person was real, or let's see if the spelling's right, or how old were they, or where were they living, and you can sort of build stories just from looking up their genealogy. You know, you look in the old census data, and they were, you know, you find out someone was a candy maker, and this, and that's how you kind of build this person's life that was otherwise just tucked away in a newspaper that no one was ever reading about, you know. So that's I kind of sort of became a genealogist reluctantly, you know. You just start learning those kind of tools.
So do you have a lot of cooperation with family members that are around to interview them, and are they willing to talk about these things that are in their history?
Yeah, I've had a couple people that sort of by chance just happened to show up. There was a story I was considering including in my second book about argument over cows ends in death. And it was about this guy who's arguing with his mother-in-law and ends up shooting her. And the obit was so funny because of the title, Argument Over Cows Ends in Death. And I didn't know if I was going to include it or not. And so when the guy came into our local history department, our lady that runs that department said, you gotta come down here and check this out, because this guy, this is his family from this really cool story about this argument over cows. And I'm like, what? So I went down there, and he was able to lend a lot of interesting information about the Selman family, the actual Jackson prison record of the guy who, you know, committed the crime and served his time, and kind of some extra stuff that I probably would never have found on my own, because a lot of my stories, there's always going to be missing pieces still.
Right.
That's
That's
just the name,
sweet.
that's the nature of the game.
That's
But
sweet.
yeah, so you'll come across people that said, hey, I remember that, or I knew them, and or, yeah, that was my family, and here's some information, and that's great when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have any other projects that in the near future, or things that you're thinking about working on?
I do have some top secret stuff.
Top secret.
Top
So
secret.
we'll have to wait and see. And
Yep, and I have like 5,000 projects in the works all the time,
now,
and
but you have another one that you do have ongoing, Michigan's Other
Yeah.
Side. What is that?
that's my website. That's sort of like the motto is exploring the strange and unusual in the Great Lakes state. And it used to be exploring the paranormal, but as you get into other fields and other interests, you're like, I don't want to just put myself in just this one word, paranormal. So I'm like strange and unusual. That sort of kind of covers it all with what I'm interested in. So this website covers ghosts, hauntings, legends, cryptozoology, UFOs, strange buildings, strange people, anything that just fits under that term, strange and unusual, you can find on the site. Now, of course, I consider, even though it's going on its 7 years, I think, 6 years, I forget.
Wow, it's been that long
It's been a
already.
while, but I still consider it in its infancy because it's sort of been something I've been building, and you don't always have the time to plug away and put stuff on there, but
But as you present and you're writing more books, you have more stories
Yeah.
to add to that.
and you kind of pick and choose what you want to actually publish, and hope people will pay for versus what you just put on the internet, and give away for free essentially. But and I kind of look at like, well, how much research did that take? Okay, that's going into a book, versus, hey, I just found one article on this, let's throw this up on my blog.
Sure.
But I like the fact that people can come to our website and get sort of an objective opinion on stories. It's not just, oh, here's some pictures of ghostly phenomena, and you get a bunch of orbs or dumb stuff, and people being completely non-objective. You got to be an open-minded skeptic with this stuff. If you're going to present this kind of information on the internet, not just blindly throw it out there and go, this is all real, because you're going to get different perspectives from all corners of the globe. I mean, we've had negative emails before. They're far and few between, but we've had people write us going like, who do you guys think you are? You need to follow Jesus. Like, what does this have to do with Bigfoot? But it's the internet. Someone's got an opinion.
Sure. And you have to be open to that
Mhm.
and sympathetic to that as well.
Yeah.
Very cool. So this is michigansotherside.com.
.com.
And can they find your books on that site as well if
You
they want
can
to order the
get
book?
you can get autographed copies on the site, and of course, any local author or any independent author is going to tell you, like, yes, I'm going to tell everybody, go purchase from that author, because you're directly supporting them.
Exactly.
You're not supporting Amazon and Walmart and all the other biggies.
Barnes
If it is your local independent bookstore, go support them. But I'll ship them for free and all that good stuff. So it's
And
kind
then
of
they
cool.
get it autographed.
They do. You get it, whatever that means. It's like,
Wow.
I'm not Stephen King yet, but maybe someday you'll have something that's worth some
Oh, I
value.
treasure my
Yeah.
autographed copy.
Yeah.
My friend Amber Rose
Yeah.
Hammond. Well, thank you for joining me
thank
today. This
you.
has been
Thank you.
awesome. And again, this is Amber Rose Hammond. Look her up on Michigan's Other Side and purchase her books and get your autographed copy. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie.